कूल कूल ठीक है हो गया ये Hey guys, we are waiting for Rahat, so stay tuned. Hello, hello.
How's it going? How's it going?
All good, man. How about you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Long time.
Yeah. Maybe the last time was in Korea last year? Or did we
I
see?
think at ETH India last time we met.
Oh yeah.
Polygon Connect. Yeah.
That was still a long time ago.
Yeah.
Especially in Web3 terms.
Yeah, great. Let's wait for 5 minutes. I think 9 p.m. IST. For me, it's 7:30. So yeah, let's wait for 5-7 minutes. I've admitted all, I guess. Yeah. Gosh, I have admitted all. Prakash, can you admit all? I'm not able to admit them all. GM. Um, Guys, probably we will start in 5 minutes, so stay tuned. By the way, to that time, if you have any questions related to Biconomy, push in chat so that I can ask Rahat about them. Or I think they will get solved in the middle itself. But yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Ashish. I think you have to be on mute.
Actually, I have a doubt regarding this sphere and regarding this recording. Can I ask?
Probably, and I mean, recording will be available, so don't worry. We can take it in the end. So
Okay,
we
okay.
don't mind
Like,
unmuting you.
where I can get this recording? Like, in somehow, uh, in some situation, I was not able to join in past recording, past session. That's why I'm asking.
So it's on our it will be on our YouTube channel, so don't worry.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I think we should begin. So hello everyone. My name is Piyush. I'm working in ecosystem growth at Spheron. So there are many things going on. Like for today itself, I think for Indian people, it's a proud moment as well that Chandrayaan 3 got landed on the south pole of moon. So similarly, you can land on Spiron as well. And here we have today Rahat to help you out that how you can land on Spiron with Biconomy. So now I will hand it over to Rahat, the developer advocate lead of Biconomy. Over to you, Rahat.
Thank you, thank you. Unfortunately, I can't really take you to the moon, but maybe you can build something with the stuff that we talk about to go to the moon. But yeah, let me share my screen. One sec. Cool. So this is going to be a overview of count abstraction, and we're specifically going to be looking at two code bases during this workshop. The main one that I prepared for you all is a template that you can actually use to build your own Web3 Dropbox-like dApp. It'll be a starter kit that essentially gives you out of the box a working Next.js app that integrates both Biconomy and Spheron. And it would be up to you to implement like your own smart contracts and everything that you would want on top of that. So it'll be meant as a starting point that hopefully you can use to build some cool stuff. And post that, we'll also go into like a sample kind of like how you would interact with smart contracts and use account abstraction and everything like that. So very quickly, my name is Rahat, head of DevRel at Biconomy, formerly been a front-end engineer, founder, hip-hop artist. These are a couple places you can find me online on both Twitter or X, or I don't know what it's called anymore, but one of those things, and Lens. So yeah, it's we're gonna go. I did a similar talk to this before for folks at the previous Dapathon, so some of this stuff might be a little bit familiar, but there are some changes that we'll be covering too. But really quickly, let's talk about like the current UX of Web3. It kind of sucks, especially if you're coming in as someone who is like completely new to Web3, completely just like brand new to any of this ecosystem. If we're, trying to onboard onto a wallet, we have like this fear of losing our private keys, which unfortunately has happened to me in the past couple of months. So the fear is real. The fear happens. The UX has a lot of managing to do in that sense. There's just a complicated Web3 UX kind of like overall in general. Like if I want to even get started using a Web3 dApp, first thing I have to do is go to an exchange, get some funds, put it on some wallet, connect to the wallet via my connect with the wallet to the dApp, and then I can finally start actually interacting with the dApp, and I'm going to start paying some gas fees along with that, right? If we think about this from like a traditional product that you build, this is one of the worst ways you can onboard anybody onto your product. And it's probably a reason why there aren't that many users in Web3 at the moment. Not only because, you know, we need more use cases, and hopefully some of this gives you some ideas on what to build, but also because the infra needs to be a little bit better to support better user experiences. So how can we improve on that Web3 user experience? And it comes to account abstraction. So account abstraction, specifically in the EVM world, has been pioneered by ERC-4037 over the past several months, over the past year really, of where a single smart contract called an entry point contract has been deployed on several chains, and that allows you to do things like custom validation logic on your transactions. And we're going to dive into that a little bit in a second. But the gist of it is that, like I mentioned, the ability to add arbitrary logic to the process of validating a transaction. So you have a transaction, you do some type of logic to validate that it should be processed, it should be sponsored, or it should be paid for in a certain way. These are all different things that you can do. And the thing is, we're not looking at transactions traditionally as we do in the EVM. We're looking at transactions and they're part of what are called user operations. So user operations are essentially the new paradigm for how we look at transactions within the account abstraction flow. User operations contain all of the data that you need to execute a regular EVM transaction. It has a nonce, it has all the gas limits, it has the data, everything that's needed is in there, but it has some additional information as well for you to do some of that custom validation logic. So how do we actually create smart, user operations? How do we actually do all of this? This is achieved with smart accounts or smart contract wallets. Because we want to kind of like go towards a better naming system, I'm going to be referring to them as smart accounts. So wallets are generally secured by the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, or ECDSA. That's your regular wallet, your EOA, or externally owned account. That's like your regular MetaMask wallet that you may have been already using, etc., that you're using currently in Web3. Now, instead of the wallet being secured by that algorithm, the wallet is instead secured by code, and that opens it up to allowing you to do different types of signature algorithms for your wallet. So you can do different types of authentication, social login. You can do, login with like hardware wallets as well. You can do login with what are called passkeys. So like your actual devices can act as like passkeys for doing signatures on the wallets. So you don't need like a specific wallet, but you're using your device kind of as the wallet or the owner of that wallet. And these are different things that are possible with the solutions that we're going to be mentioning soon. But let's go through like a quick overview of like how the full flow works. So in the green box, this is just representing a smart contract wallet secured by code. This specific wallet can send out user operations into a mempool. This is done through a JSON RPC provider. So you just make a regular request through there. And in this mempool, the mempool is just like this area that houses all of the different user operations, right, that different wallets have sent to it. There's going to be a public mempool that is being kind of like thought through a little bit on the ERC-4037 side, but several companies like Biconomy have mempools that we create through our bundlers. So bundlers are just services that just look at the mempool, look at the user operations that are in that mempool, and process them to the entry point contract. So I mentioned that an entry point contract has been deployed on each of the different chains. This entry point contract governs this entire process. It's going to validate that this user operation came from an actual smart contract wallet. It's going to validate that that wallet has enough gas to pay for it. It's going to actually execute the final transaction for you onto the EVM. You can do other things as well, such as looking to see if there's a paymaster that is going to sponsor your, transactions for you. This is how we get into gasless transactions without doing something like meta transactions, right? In the older flows of like doing gasless transactions, you would have to do an ERC 2771 compliant change to your contract. You no longer have to do any of that. The entry point contract can take a look at your transaction through your user app, can take a look at seeing if a paymaster is going to be sponsoring it or not, and simply make sure that the paymaster is the one who sponsors it rather than you doing it. So paymasters have a couple different use cases that I'll dive into a bit more as well, but this is like kind of like how the full flow would look through the execution phase. Now, you probably don't want to actually code all of those contracts and those services yourselves. The entire infrastructure would take forever to actually build. So the solution that we kind of provide for this is the Biconomy SDK. So the Biconomy SDK comes in a couple of different mix and matchable packages. So these are the three main packages that you would be interacting with. One is the account package. This is what helps you deploy smart accounts. We have a smart contract factory contract that helps you to deploy all of the different smart contracts that act as your wallets. So rather than you having to, go and interact with that contract directly, we give you a nice SDK that through your front end's JavaScript, you can just deploy contracts very quickly. This account also lets you create these user operations that would become the transactions. We have a paymaster package, which allows you to actually interact with our paymaster services. So one of the use cases of a paymaster that I already mentioned was sponsoring gasless transactions. But sometimes, you may not want to it may not always make sense to do gasless transactions, especially if you have like a high number of users or like in certain DeFi use cases where people are paying anyway and they're used to paying with fees. Another way of like enhancing the user experiences in those cases is to allow users to pay for gas using ERC20 tokens. So for example, let's say I'm doing a Uniswap swap. I want to swap some USDC for some wrapped Ether. And to do that, normally I would pay a little bit of like ETH or a little bit of Matic if I'm on Polygon or whatever network I'm on, to make sure that swap goes through. Okay, I'm sorry, I just hit myself with my, I got a little excited. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so rather than me paying for that swap, between the USDC and the wrapped Ether in ETH, I can instead pay for the gas using some additional USDC, right? Now I don't have to make sure that the native token of the network is there. I just can use some additional ERC20 tokens that I may have to pay for it. So that still provides that smoother user experience while, going around that barrier, right? Finally, the bundler package. So the bundler, like I mentioned, is what takes those user operations and sends it to the entry point contract. We give you a nice package for interacting with that as well. The paymaster and bundler can also be interacted via APIs. So you can definitely check that out in our documentation. It is a little bit easier just to go through our SDKs though, but you can do either way. And with our packages, you're not like strictly forced to use our bundler or our paymaster. If you want to use a bundler from another service, if you want to use someone else's paymaster, you can actually do that with our SDK. You just provide a URL for wherever that bundler or paymaster is located, so we can make the request there on your behalf. For now, let's actually dive into some code. So the first kind of thing that we're going to go through is a template for building your own Web3 Dropbox style application. So I have code base here. Am I running it? Let's make sure I'm running it. Yeah, I'm running it. It is currently a Next.js application on my localhost. I will also drop the GitHub link in the chat. The GitHub link contains the completed code, but I'm going to go through the code right now with you. So let's start. Right now, it's just a regular page that has Web3 Dropbox, upload your files to the decentralized web. What we're going to do is add social login to this. Upon social login, we'll create a smart contract account for the user and then display a page where it allows them to upload a file and use the Spheron SDK to upload a specific file to IPFS. So to do this, I've already included several imports up top. We'll be going through the imports as we use them. But let's start things off. And I have some pieces of state here to keep track of the address. I have a loading state, and this is going to be for keeping track of the actual smart account instance. So that's coming in just a bit. But let's start with the social login piece. Let's make sure that people can actually log into our site before they get started. We're going to use a package called Particle Auth. Particle Auth is one of our partners. We partner with them, and within our SDK, we have an integration of Particle Auth. If you want to learn more about Particle Auth, that's available at particle.network. They're going to be the one that we use for doing the social login piece. But in our kind of case, let me just move back to the VS Code. Let's get an instance of Particle Auth ready to go. I've already installed and imported the packages we need. And pretty simple. The main thing we want to do is set up an instance of Particle Network with our API keys. All of these API keys you can grab from the Particle Auth dashboard, which is at particle.network. I'm displaying my, my keys. These keys will not work after the end of this workshop, so you'll need to get your own. But yeah, don't ever display keys in real life. This is not real life. So this is our Particle Auth provider. Let's create a connect button that will let you sign in. So I'm going to go ahead and add this connection button. Let's ignore this for now. And we're going to ignore all of this for now. And let's just focus here. As long as you've got this particle network configuration all set up, it's pretty simple. You just use the particle instance that you created, and you just call a function. It's .auth.login. It's really as simple as that. What this does is it logs you in. It gives you a nice pop-up UI that has all your social logins and everything, and we'll see that in action in a second. But it also returns to you a user info object. So if the user logs in via Google, via Twitter, via whatever social account that they decide, you can actually get like whatever their public information that's available is there. So it might be like their email or their name or something like that. This is just like the regular stuff that the social accounts provide. Not very Web3, I know, but this is what is provided by the APIs on a regular basis. So once we do that, what we want to do next is create like a Web3 provider. This can be done using an Ethers.js package. You can use WAGMI. You can use several other tools. I just did Ethers for simplicity's sake. But we create that Web3 provider. And with that provider, that's going to become, so that provider actually is attached to a regular EOA that is generated by Particle Auth, but we want to use a smart account, right? So now, let's add a couple more pieces to this. I want to create a smart account, but I want to make sure that I have the infra to support that smart account kind of already set up. So I create an instance of a bundler. So this is from our bundler package. Again, these are just the packages that I've imported up here. So with the bundler, when I create that instance, I just add a bundler URL. This bundler URL can be found on the Biconomy dashboard. And I specify what chain I want to do everything on and the entry point address for the entry point contract. We have a default entry point address already there. If for whatever reason you want to use a different entry point contract, you can. But I think most folks use like the main entry point contract that everybody uses in the 43.7 flow. And similarly for the paymaster, where we have a URL that you can get from the Biconomy dashboard. This is this is changeable with any URL of other paymasters that are 43.7 compliant. So you can use any paymaster URL here that you want from other services. Same for the bundler. So we've got the bundler and paymaster all set up. Now let's uncomment some of this stuff and look deeper into it. Next is going to be creating a configuration file for your smart account. We want to get the signer from the provider that we set up over here. That signer is going to be essentially the owner of our smart contract account. Again, specifying the chain ID. In this case, I'm just using Polygon Mumbai. And I'm passing the instance of the bundler and paymaster so that our smart account knows, okay, all of the user ops need to be bundled by this specific bundler. Any gasless transactions or any paymaster type of transactions would be used through this paymaster. So that is all just passed into this configuration object, and I create a new instance of the Biconomy smart account. I initialize it using the .init function, and now I can just display an address. So this is your regular kind of like social login. Not a huge lot going on. Let's add a little bit of UI into the mix. And this will lead us into the Spheron side of things. Ooh, I have to add a logout button. Forgot about that. So there are different methods available to you from Particle Auth. One is a logout button, which will disconnect your wallet, disconnect everything for you. Cool. So now I've got all of these set up here, and you'll notice that during my loading states, whenever I'm loading or I don't have an address in state, I have a button to log in, which is going to be taking that connect function that we looked over here. So whenever we're loading, it'll just say loading smart account. And then if the address is available in state, we'll display these 3 items, which will just be the smart account itself, a button to log out, and this upload component, which I will go over right now. So the upload component here, this is what's actually going to be handling the uploading a file to IPFS. A lot of this I literally copy and pasted from the docs, as well as an example that was available on the Spheron side. So it's pretty easy to get set up. The front end stuff is really just like handling the file and making sure it's the data for the file is uploaded to the right place. The package that I used here is the Spheron browser upload. So because we're doing this in a browser environment, we're using the browser upload. They also have another one if you're using like a Node.js specific environment. So depending on the environment, you want the different package. So in this case, you just want the browser upload package. And one of the main things that you need to do is fetch and go to an endpoint to fetch a token. So you would have to create that yourself. In my case, since I'm using Next.js, I put that endpoint actually into an API route. So this is importing everything that you need from the Spheron storage and creating the request to actually get a token from the Spheron client. The initial token that you need to supply is going to be one you get from your dashboard, which is also linked in the README of this file. So like everything of like how to get the tokens, how to do the dashboard stuff, that's all linked in the README. So I won't go over that during the workshop because most of that is straightforward. And then we want to get an actual upload token using our token that we got from our dashboard and return that to the front end. So that's this upload token here. And that's just going to be a string value with the token. So that is the request that is being made in the component here, this response. So I'm just fetching from that upload endpoint from Next.js and then taking that response and giving it to my upload result here. This will allow me to create the links that I need to link over to the actual files. Here's just some like bunch of UI stuff, just buttons for handling the upload, for adding a file. And the last thing that I kind of like did here was just like I formatted a nice little link directly to the content. The upload link that you get gives you like the link to like the IPFS. I forget the actual term for it. It escapes my mind right now, but it doesn't link directly to the file. You would go to like this IPFS page and then click into the file. So I just formatted it so it goes directly to the file. So you just need to use the upload link / your file name. Cool. So that is all set up. We've all gone over that. Let's see it in actual action. Do that later. All right. So hit login to get started. This is the particle auth login page. They give you this right out of the box. Everything is styled for you. You don't need to worry about anything else. I'm just going to do like a one-time password login. So if you put in your email, you send a code. Let me just get a code in my email. Okay, 897151. It'll be loading the smart account. So you saw that loading state change as I was fetching the smart account. And this is the smart account attached to my site. Now think about that from a Web2 user's perspective. I did something that is already familiar. I just logged in using a code for my one-time password, right? I didn't have to onboard onto a wallet or do anything else. Now I just have an Ethereum address without even thinking about it, right? So that removes a huge barrier and huge kind of like friction point that a lot of newcomers to Web3 will have. And if you're trying to, get, adoption for your product or anything that you want to build, you want to open it up to as many customers as possible. This is going to help you do that. So this is my smart account. Let's upload some content to IPFS, make sure that works. Select a file. What should I do? Let's do this. This is like an old NFT on Solana that I had. I'm going to hit upload. That is uploading. Cool. Great. Awesome. So here's my file link. I click my file link, and now I have a file, a link to directly to this image available on the interwebs through IPFS. Cool. So like I said, this is a template. It gives you the things you need to create your smart contract account. It gives you a starting point for how to upload content onto IPFS. This is, a very poorly styled, I'm sorry, I'm not a designer, a very poorly styled version of the Web3 Dropbox. I didn't add a smart contract to this because I wanted to leave it open for folks to take this, build your own smart contract and different use cases on top of this. But just so you kind of get an idea of how to interact with smart contracts on Biconomy, I'm going to now switch over to a different code base. Okay. Cool. So this particular code base is deployed on Base Gurley. So we're on several different networks on a lot of the different EVMs. So we're on Polygon, Ethereum, Base. We're also on Avalanche, and several other chains are coming over the next couple of weeks as well. We're on Linea testnets. We'll be on several more too. We're also on Optimism. Yeah. So you can take a look at like all of the different chains that we're on the website or in our documentation as well. But let's take a look at this code base here real quick. I'm just going to run through this code base super quickly. A lot of this is going to be almost exactly the same as the demo I just showed you of like creating particle auth, instances of bundler and paymaster. The only difference here is that I have a component called Minter. Very, as you can probably tell what it does, it handles minting an NFT for you. So this is an NFT that is deployed on base girly. So like this is a super basic NFT. All it does is just mint something. It doesn't have any URI data or anything attached to it. So it'll just look like a broken NFT. It's really just like show you how to do the actual smart contract integration. So if I have the NFT address here, I'm the other parts of it that you want to keep an eye on. I now have this smart account instance. So similar to the code base we just went over, I saved an instance of the smart account to state, which I'm passing down into the Minter function, into the Minter component. Smart account has several different types of methods, which you can go through on our documentation. But the one that I want you to focus on is this build user op. This is, as the name suggests, going to build your user operation for you, right? But to actually get that set up, first we need to get information about our transaction. So once you have an instance of your contract, so I'm connecting to the contract the same way I would any contract. I'm just applying the address of the contract, the ABI, and I'm giving it a provider. This provider can be a JSON RPC provider, it can be your wallet provider. We just need a connection to the actual contract itself, right? I'm using this Ethers.js method called populate transaction because I want to create a signed raw object that handles like the information about the transaction, not actually execute the transaction, because the execution of the transaction has to happen through the user op, not through Ethers, right? So this is just giving me that raw transaction object that I need. And that is available from this min transaction.data. So that data object needs to be sent to the data here, data field. This is like the beginning of like constructing your user operation. This is the only thing that you need to manually do. Everything else is taken care of for you under the hood. So that's what this build user op is doing. It's taking that raw transaction object and passing it in through an array. Cool thing is, if since this is an array, it can take several transactions. So if you wanted to batch multiple transactions together, you want to mint multiple NFTs, you want to, if you have a DeFi protocol, if you have a swap, even like do an approve and a swap in one go, right? Different one-click experiences. You can pass as many transactions into this as you want, and these will all be executed in one batch. So in this case, I'm just passing one. That's all I need. And now I'm interacting with our paymaster. I want the paymaster to actually handle paying the gas for this specific transaction. So that's done through this paymaster service and data response. And I set my paymaster mode to sponsored. Remember, there's two use cases that you can use with our paymaster, the gas list, as well as paying for gas using ERC20 tokens. That's a separate mode. In this case, the mode I'm focused on is sponsored. So now I'm actually creating the data response that I need from the paymaster service that we have. And then I'm just attaching that back to the user op that I was creating. Finally, the last thing is just to send the user op. So once the user op has the paymaster and data attached to it, I send it off and we're good to go. We execute the transaction. So let's just see that in action. Connect to Web3. Similar type of thing. I'm using particle auth. In the code. Let me get that from my email. 081 375. This should be the same smart account address because I used the same login method. So I'm going to hit mint NFT, minting my NFT in the background. I just sign this message, hit confirm. So all of those is just given to us by what's it called, by Particle. So again, you don't need to onboard onto a wallet. The wallet UI is given to you. So success, I have a transaction ID here. Let's actually take that transaction ID. You know, I should have, what I should have done is linked to the transaction. Do that next time. But if we go to base early scan, and search for that transaction hash, you'll see that I minted this NFT, token ID 16. This was done about 38 seconds ago. I just used the wallet with no gas, nothing. Everything was paid for me, right? The gas price here that was paid by our paymaster. So let's go back to the app. I can click here and actually view all of the NFTs that I've minted specifically from this address, and you'll see again it's just a NFT with no metadata attached to it. So really just a simple thing just to get you understanding how to do smart contract interactions. So now you know how to do the social login side as well as integrate the Spheron SDK for uploads. You also know how to do your own smart contract interactions. Would definitely love to see like what kind of use cases folks, you know, are excited about, how you can like build out your own smart contracts and you know, build it on top of the template that we gave for the Biconomy and Spheron SDK. So definitely check that out. But yeah, that is generally how you would go about both of these things. I'll also drop the link to the based account abstraction tutorial, so you guys have that as well. Let me drop that into the chat. And yeah, so that is the overall overview of what we went through. We'd love to take any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, great workshop, Rahat. Awesome. So anyone, if you have any question, drop them down in chat so I can take it, or probably Rahat can even. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't zoom in. Apologies for that.
It's okay. You will be able to zoom in the recording, so don't worry, guys. Okay, so everything is clear. Oh, okay. Yeah, Ashish. Good.
Yeah, I have a doubt regarding this Biconomy.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
as
good.
you told, like if we log, we can use email ID for the login using particle auth. After that, it will create an account, just like
Right.
similar to MetaMask or any other wallet.
Right.
So how can I able to transfer the amount? Like suppose if I created an account using particle auth and I minted some NFT using that account, how am I supposed to transfer that NFT or put that NFT for sale in OpenSea?
To transfer that NFT, you mean to like a different wallet or anywhere else?
Yeah,
But-
yes.
Yeah. So you would do the NFT. Like if you do like an ERC 721 standard, that already the contract already comes with transfer functions, right?
Yeah.
So all NFT transfers are just based on that transfer. Even like a regular wallet, it's just calling the function on that contract. So the same way we called like the minting function from our front end, you can also call the transfer function. You can even make that transfer function completely gasless, so like they can transfer without paying any gas fees. So the exact same way we do the mint, we can do the same thing of like transferring as well to a different address. You would just use the ERC 721 standard, which is already built into the smart contract.
Okay, understood. And another thing, during the payment of that transaction, it is totally, as you said, it is totally gasless. Like if I am transferring any token or NFTs, it will deduct it from that token, as you said, if I use gasless transaction. But in
If you
case
use
of
the gasless transaction method, so it's gasless from the perspective of the end user, right? The end
okay,
user doesn't pay any gas. But like I mentioned, we have a paymaster, right? So the
yes,
paymaster is what's actually paying the gas for you. You would
okay,
set that up on your Biconomy dashboard. So I left some links in the README for like going through the docs on that. But you would go to your Biconomy dashboard, add some funds to the paymaster, and that paymaster is responsible for paying for your end users.
okay. So basically, we have to add some amount in the Biconomy dashboard. Like if I create an account in Biconomy and I have to put some amount of Ether or some amount of other native currency, then it will
Exactly.
use that for transferring that amount.
Exactly.
Understood, understood. Clear. Thanks.
Alternatively, if you don't want to pay on behalf of the user, the other method is to allow them to pay in other ERC20 tokens. In this case, the paymaster is going to, still pay for the actual transaction. You don't have to top it up. We have that set up so that it'll pay for it, but then the fee is going to be charged to the user based on whatever token they want to pay in. So if they want to pay in USDC, they want to pay in several other ERC20 tokens that we support, they can do that as well.
Okay. Understood, understood.
Good. Rahat, there is one question from Satya. You talked about bundling features. Seems like the focus is gas optimization and relay taking up the cost. Are there other aspects of UI that Biconomy tackles, like UI task lists, etc., enterprise use case?
So we don't actually handle UI use cases. It's strictly UX. So it's the infrastructure for providing like the better UX. UI would still be up to you. But this is just like one specific use case that I was kind of going over. If we went over all the use cases, we'd need several more workshops. But just to give you an idea, some of the other things that you can do with the Biconomy SDK. So we're actually going to be having a new release next week. Some additional UX features you can add is things like social recovery for your wallets. So if you lose access to your wallet, having like close friends and a family that can act as like recovery points for the wallet. You can do things like you sign for an application one time and then you don't sign again on subsequent transactions, which gives you a better like Web2 buttery type of UX, so that you're not constantly getting signing pop-ups. That's like another thing. We do have that through what's called session keys. One of the other things that I mentioned before was like using your device as your wallet, almost like as like the signing mechanism. That's through passkeys. So like using your biometrics, using your device password and things like that to sign for transactions. These are all like the different UX improvements that you can build into your app, but we don't do anything on the UI. Any of the UI stuff that you saw was just like stuff provided either by one of our partners or just one of our modules. But that's not really, I guess, the focus of what we do. It's just the UX infrastructure.
Awesome. Okay, that answers this question. If anyone else have any question, we can take one more probably. Okay, no one has any question. So yeah, thanks for the workshop, Rahat, and yeah, we will sign off this workshop. I'm here, Piyush from Dubai. See you guys.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.